Okay, you will want a calculator today. It'll be very, very helpful. 10, 30, 19. So we're looking at properties of quadratics. This is our general form for a quadratic where we have the ax squared plus bx plus c. I often call this a BC form. Okay. The a is the number in front of the x squared term, the b is the number in front of the x term, and the c is called a constant. It's the plain old number on the end, okay? Now, we've done a little bit of graphing of quadratics. We did a little bit of graphing where we found the x-intercepts, and then we could graph the little parabola that way. We did that before, factor, solve, and graph. Well, today we're learning another way to help, another thing to help us graph, and that is knowing where the vertex is. So a little bit of vocabulary. So many times our parabola is an upward facing parabola. Okay, it's that U shape. This point way down here is what we call the vertex. The vertex is an ordered pair, and it's a very useful point to know. In this case, would you call this point a minimum or a maximum? Would you call it the highest point or the lowest point? Lowest point. Therefore, it's a minimum because it is the lowest point on the graph in this case, all right? And that's kind of useful information. We're going to figure out why that's useful tomorrow. We're going to do some applications. But we have this really nice formula that we can use, this opposite of b over 2a from the a and the b above, to figure out the x coordinate of the vertex. To get the y coordinate, we're just going to plug that value back in for x and figure it out using our calculator. Okay. The other thing a parabola has is what's called an axis of symmetry. This is just vocabulary. Axis of symmetry is the line that passes through the vertex, and it's this vertical line, and it is a line of symmetry, meaning that the right side of the parabola is just a reflection across that axis of symmetry, and that gives us the left-hand side. So the right side and the left side of that axis of symmetry are reflections, mirror reflections of one another, okay? The axis of symmetry has an equation that matches this. So it's kind of nice. X equals negative b over 2a. When you find the x coordinate of your vertex, you're also finding the axis of symmetry. It's like two birds with one stone. Kind of nice. Okay? I really don't care about the axis of symmetry. It's just vocabulary you need to know. That's all. Do our parabolas only open upwards? Or could we have one that opens down? They could open down. How do you know if a parabola opens up or down?
It's negative or positive.
Yeah, that's right. That a value. If a is a positive value, then our parabola opens up. If the a is a negative value, what's going to happen to the parabola? It's going downward. So that is really important information too. Whatever that a value is, if it's a positive number, it opens up. If a is a negative value, it opens down. Well, now we have our vertex right here. That vertex is an ordered pair. Would you call this vertex a minimum value or a maximum? A maximum, yeah. Why? It's the highest point on the parabola, right? So it's a maximum point. Okay. All right. Kind of nice. We want to understand that. So we can have the lowest point The vertex is either the lowest point of the graph or it's the highest point of the graph. Okay? All right, so here's the big thing today. Just this formula, opposite of b over 2a, and we're going to use that over and over. All right, example 1. Example 1, identify the vertex, the maximum or minimum value is what they want. AOS stands for axis of symmetry. And then we're going to sketch a really quick graph. Okay, the super easy graph. Most of what you're doing today is just identifying the vertex. Make sure you read the directions and only do what's required. So how do we start the vertex? How do we figure out the x-coordinate of the vertex? What's the formula? What's the formula?
Negative b over 2a.
Yeah, that's it. Opposite of b over 2a. That's where we begin anytime we're finding the vertex. So that's what we're going to start with. Here's my function. F of x equals, f of x is function notation. It means the same thing as a y value. Okay? They're interchangeable. Now, I want to know, what is our a value here? The number in front of the x squared is 1. What's our b value? And what's our c value? Okay. So we've done that before with the quadratic formula that it's the same a, b, and c. And we're going to find the vertex. The vertex is an ordered pair. We're going to start by finding the x-coordinate of the vertex. What's the formula to find the x-coordinate of the vertex? I love how you said the opposite of b over 2a. The opposite of b over 2a is really important. We understand it's the opposite of b. Here's our b value. What's the opposite of b? Positive 2. Positive 2. The opposite of your b value over 2 times a. What's our a value? 1. So we have a 2 over 2 times 1, which is just 2. And 2 over 2 is 1. Now, how do we figure out the y-coordinate of the vertex? Yeah, we're going to take our 1, our x value, and we're going to plug it back in to our formula that they gave us, okay, to get y. And so we have a 1, and then in place of x, we use the 1 we found here, and we're going to square it, minus 2, and in place of x, we're plugging in a 1, minus the 1. So we're just plugging it right in place of those x's, and that's where I use my calculator. 1, and then we got 1 squared. Some of this you can do in your head, but, you know, got a calculator. So I'm just plugging in exactly how I have it written with parentheses using my calculator, and I happen to get negative 2. And so there is our y coordinate. And so the vertex is 1, negative 2. 1 for the x and negative 2 for the y. The nice thing is, once I've found the vertex, I also already found the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry, we found it first. It's x equals 1. Always an equation. It's the x-coordinate of the vertex, x equals 1. Now, I'm going to sketch a little graph just by sketching where the vertex goes. 1, negative 2. 1 for the x, negative 2 for the y. I'm just going to label that point 1, negative 2. That is the vertex. So now my question is, when you look at this equation, is it an up parabola or a down parabola? How do you know it's an up parabola? Yeah, A is a positive value. It's positive 1, which means our parabola opens up. So from this vertex point, I just get to make my parabola that opens up shape. Opens up. So if I know that that's an up parabola, is this vertex a maximum or a minimum vertex? Yeah, it's a minimum. So I have a minimum value, since this is a minimum point. When they ask for the minimum value, it's always, what is the lowest value of this graph? Negative 2. It's always that y coordinate, the lowest or the highest value. Okay. And that's all we need to do. Again, f of x is the same as y. Don't know why I chose to use f of x, but just means y. What's wrong with this equation here? It's missing a b. So I have negative 3x squared. Since it's missing the b, what is it? 0 plus, excuse me, 0x plus 5. It was missing a term, missing the x term, so we wanted a placeholder in there. I'm going to fill it in with 0 because I would never write that. 0 times x. All right, what is the a value? Negative 3. What's the b value? 0. What's the c value? 5. Good. All right, so we want to find the vertex. The vertex is an ordered pair. How do I find the x-coordinate of the vertex? Opposite of b over 2a. Very good. The opposite of b. What is the opposite of b? There isn't one. Yeah, it's just 0. Opposite of 0 is just 0. There is no opposite. Over 2 times what? What's the a value? Good. So 0 over negative 6. What is 0 divided by any number? 0. All right. So my x-coordinate is 0. And what do I need to do then? Plug it back into your equation to figure out the y value. So we have negative 3 times 0 squared plus 0 times 0 plus 5. Do you have to use your calculator for this one? What is 0 times anything? 0. Okay, so 0 plus 5 is 5. So my vertex is 0, 5. What's my axis of symmetry? X equals 0. X equals 0. Always the x-coordinate. X equals 0. Okay. I'm going to make a little sketch. 0, 5 is right here. That is my vertex. So my question is this an up or a down parabola? How do we know it's a down parabola? Yeah, the a is a negative value, and so makes it a downward facing parabola. So I'm just going to, from my vertex, make my downward facing parabola shape. So is that vertex a minimum or a maximum? Good, it's a maximum. So we have a maximum value. What is the maximum value? 5. Yes. The highest y value is 5. Is this easy or hard?
Sorry.
It's just a formula. I mean, yeah. Okay. Negative b over 2a or opposite of b over 2a comes right from the quadratic formula, which we'll do again tomorrow. Again with calculators, so bring your calculator. You're definitely going to want your calculator. All right, we got last one here. f of x or y equals 1/2 x squared plus 4x plus 5. Is this an up parabola or a down parabola? Does it open up or does it open down? Opens up. Good. What is our A value? What's the B value? And what's the C value? 5. Good. All right, I want to start by finding the vertex. The vertex is an ordered pair. How do I find the x-coordinate of the vertex? Opposite of B over 2A. Say that formula until you have it memorized, please. What is the opposite of B? -4. Very good. The opposite of B is -4. Over 2 times A. What's the A value? 1/2. What is 2 times 1/2? 1. What's -4 divided by 1? -4. Now what do I do with this -4 value? Plug it back in. So I have 1/2. And I'm plugging in a -4, and I'm going to square that whole thing. So plug it in with parentheses. Plus 4 times -4, and then plus the 5. This one I definitely am going to use my calculator for. 1/2 parentheses -4 squared. Again, be careful with parentheses. Make sure you take the time. It's worth it to plug it in correctly the first time. Plus 5. So I'm using parentheses, and I get -3. So there's our x at -4 and our y value at -3. So there's my vertex. What's my axis of symmetry equation? X equals -4. Very good. Good, good. I'm going to go ahead and make a little sketch. -4, -3 is right here. That is our vertex. So is our parabola an up parabola or an opens down parabola? Up. What tells us it's an up parabola? The A value is positive, so we know it opens upward. So I'm just going to make an upward facing U. So do we have a minimum or a maximum value? Minimum. What's the minimum value?
Right, or
-3. Good. The minimum value is -3. It's always the yeah. So minimum and maximum refers to how high it goes or how low it goes. That'd be the y values. The y-axis tells us how low and how high. So -3 right there is our minimum value. All right, ladies and gentlemen, do you have questions for me? Okay. Pass out your worksheet. Make sure you read